There's a silent difference between people who slowly build wealth and people who stay stuck for years without understanding why. It's not always intelligence. It's not luck. It's not even how hard they work. In fact, some of the most exhausted people in the world are also the most financially trapped. They wake up early, sleep late, stay busy every hour, yet somehow never move forward. Meanwhile, another person with the same 24 hours quietly builds opportunities, income, freedom, and eventually wealth. So what's really happening? The answer is uncomfortable because it forces you to look at your life differently. Wealth is not only built with money, it's built with time. And most people are using time in ways that secretly guarantee struggle without realizing it. The frightening part is that bad time habits don't feel dangerous in the moment. They feel normal. Watching one more video feels harmless. Saying, "I'll start tomorrow" feels harmless. Staying constantly busy feels productive. But over the years, those small decisions slowly shape your financial future. Time is not just passing, it's multiplying something. Every day, your habits are either quietly building wealth or quietly building regret. And the people who eventually become financially successful understand something most people never learn. Money often follows how you manage your attention, energy, focus, and consistency long before it follows your talent. The truth is, rich people and broke people often live in completely different relationships with time. One uses time to escape reality. The other uses time to build a different reality. And in this video, you're about to discover 5 powerful time habits that secretly make people rich over time. Not overnight, not through hype, but through invisible compounding that changes everything. Because sometimes the biggest financial problem in your life isn't your salary, it's your relationship with time. Habit 1. Protecting your first hours of the day. Most people lose the day before the day even begins. They wake up and immediately hand their mind to the world. Notifications, messages, drama, social media, news, other people's opinions, other people's emergencies. And before they even think about their own goals, their mind is already crowded with noise. What's dangerous is that this feels normal. But wealthy thinkers understand that the first hours of the day are psychologically powerful. They shape your focus, emotional state, discipline, and direction. If your morning starts reactive, your life slowly becomes reactive too. Think about it carefully. A person wakes up tired, scrolls through TikTok for 40 minutes, rushes through breakfast, arrives late to work, mentally scattered, wastes the afternoon distracted, then tells themselves they'll change their life someday. Now compare that to someone who protects the first 90 minutes of the day like an investment. No distractions, no chaos. They read, think, exercise, learn, build, plan, reflect, create. Slowly, day after day, they become mentally sharper while everyone else stays mentally crowded. This is one of the biggest hidden wealth advantages in the world: clarity. Rich people are not always smarter, but many of them protect their mental environment better. Your first hours determine whether you spend the day intentionally or emotionally, and emotional living is expensive. It leads to impulsive spending, poor decisions, inconsistency, procrastination, and lack of direction. Most people fail at this habit because immediate stimulation feels easier than intentional focus. The brain loves dopamine. It loves distraction. It loves comfort. But comfort rarely compounds into wealth. Discipline does. And this doesn't mean waking up at 4 a.m. just because the internet said so. That's not the point. The real point is ownership. Are you controlling your morning? Or is your morning controlling you? Because eventually, how you start your days becomes how you shape your years. Habit 2. Spending time learning skills instead of only consuming entertainment. One of the quietest wealth habits in the world is replacing passive consumption with active growth. Most people spend years entertained, but never upgraded. They consume constantly. Videos, gossip, trends, arguments, viral content, endless scrolling. And while none of those things seem dangerous individually, together they create something destructive: stagnation. Because time always trains you into someone, the question is, who are you becoming? There are people who spend 3 hours daily watching entertainment for 10 years straight. Imagine the invisible cost of that. Thousands of hours gone. Thousands. Enough time to learn sales, marketing, communication, investing, coding, editing, storytelling, public speaking, business, or any high-income skill that could completely transform their future. And this is why many people feel trapped financially. Not because they lack potential, but because their habits never allowed their value to grow. The market pays for value. The more useful you become, the more opportunities start finding you. A young man can spend every evening gaming for 5 years. Another spends those same evenings learning video editing, freelancing online, understanding digital marketing, and building communication skills. 5 years later, their lives no longer look the same. Not because of luck, but because of repeated time decisions. This is how wealth quietly separates people, not in dramatic moments, but in invisible daily patterns. Most people fail at this habit because growth feels slow in the beginning. Entertainment gives instant emotional reward. Learning feels uncomfortable. Progress looks invisible for months, but eventually, the person who keeps learning becomes impossible to ignore. And here's something powerful to understand. Wealthy people often invest in skills before they need them. Poor thinking says, "I'll learn when life forces me to." Rich thinking says, "I'll prepare before opportunity arrives." That difference changes everything. Because when opportunity finally appears, prepared people move fast, while unprepared people panic. And the scary thing is this: time will pass anyway. The question is whether you'll become more valuable while it passes. Habit 3. Delaying immediate pleasure for long-term freedom. Most financial struggle is emotional before it is mathematical. People know they shouldn't overspend. They know they should save. They know they should invest in themselves. But emotions overpower logic constantly. Why? Because the human brain naturally prioritizes immediate comfort over future reward. That's why buying unnecessary things feels easier than building assets. That's why staying comfortable feels easier than taking risks. That's why people choose short-term pleasure, even when it creates long-term pain. But wealthy people often train themselves differently. They become comfortable sacrificing temporary pleasure for future freedom. And this habit changes lives quietly. A person earning modest income who controls impulses can build wealth faster than a high earner addicted to instant gratification. Because wealth is not only about how much enters your life, it's also about how much leaks out emotionally. Think about modern culture carefully. Everywhere you look, people are encouraged to consume immediately. New phone, new trend, new luxury, new distraction. Buy now, flex now, impress now. But hidden behind many flashy lifestyles is financial anxiety nobody talks about. Meanwhile, another person quietly invests, quietly learns, quietly sacrifices, quietly builds. Their life may not look impressive immediately, but years later, they own their time while others remain trapped trying to maintain appearances. Most people fail at delayed gratification because society rewards visible pleasure more than invisible discipline. Nobody claps for consistency in the beginning. Nobody celebrates restraint. Nobody notices the person quietly building stability. But eventually, the results become impossible to hide. And one of the greatest signs of maturity is learning to ask yourself a powerful question before making decisions. Will this help my future self, or just entertain my current emotions? That single question can save years of financial struggle. Because rich people understand something deeply. Freedom is purchased through disciplined time decisions repeated consistently, not through emotional spending. Habit 4. Using small consistent time blocks instead of waiting for perfect conditions. One of the biggest lies people believe is this: I'll start when life becomes easier. But life rarely becomes perfectly organized. There's always noise, fatigue, bills, distractions, problems, responsibilities, fear, uncertainty. And because people wait for perfect conditions, they never begin. This destroys more dreams than failure ever could. Wealthy people often think differently. They understand the power of small repeated action. They don't underestimate one focused hour daily. 1 hour reading, 1 hour building, 1 hour learning, 1 hour creating, 1 hour investing into the future version of themselves. Because they understand compound growth emotionally, not just financially. Imagine 2 people over 5 years. One says, "I'm too busy." The other uses 1 focused hour daily to build something meaningful. At first, there's almost no visible difference, but then the gap widens slowly. The second person develops expertise, confidence, connections, opportunities, momentum, income streams, experience, identity transformation. And suddenly, people call them lucky. But luck often looks like consistency nobody noticed. Most people fail at this habit because they underestimate how powerful small actions become over time. They chase dramatic motivation instead of sustainable rhythm. But massive success is usually boring before it becomes impressive. That's what people don't understand. The wealthy are often willing to repeat small productive actions long enough for compounding to take over. And psychologically, this habit matters because consistency changes identity. When you repeatedly show up for yourself, you stop seeing yourself as someone trying to improve. You begin seeing yourself as a disciplined person. That shift is powerful because identity controls behavior more than motivation ever will. A person who identifies as disciplined behaves differently automatically. They waste less time. They procrastinate less. They tolerate discomfort better. They focus longer. They think bigger. And over time, that identity quietly changes financial outcomes. Never underestimate what focused hours can do over years, because the future is often built in moments that looked too small to matter. Habit 5. Thinking long-term while everyone else thinks short-term. This may be the most powerful wealth habit of all. Long-term thinking. Most people make decisions emotionally based on immediate circumstances. Immediate fear, immediate comfort, immediate pressure, immediate excitement. But wealthy people often play a completely different mental game. They think in years, sometimes decades, and this changes everything. When someone thinks short-term, they chase fast money, fast results, fast validation, fast success. They quit quickly, panic quickly, change direction constantly. Their emotions control their consistency. But long-term thinkers behave differently. They understand that real wealth often grows invisibly before it becomes visible. A business may struggle for years before succeeding. An investment may look small for years before multiplying. A skill may feel useless for months before creating opportunities. A YouTube channel may look dead before suddenly exploding. The problem is that most people quit during the invisible phase. They stop too early because they expected immediate reward. But patience is a financial advantage in a world addicted to speed. Think about planting a tree. For years, growth seems slow, almost disappointing. But underneath the surface, roots are expanding quietly. Then, eventually, visible growth accelerates dramatically. Human success often works the same way. Most people are obsessed with visible results. Wealthy thinkers are obsessed with invisible foundations. And this mindset protects them emotionally. They don't panic every time progress feels slow because they understand compounding. This applies to investing, health, skills, relationships, business, Discipline. Everything meaningful. Most people fail at long-term thinking because modern culture trains impatience. Social media makes everyone compare timelines. People see someone successful and assume success happened instantly. But what they usually don't see are the lonely years, repetitive work, uncertainty, and disciplined consistency behind the scenes. Real wealth is often built quietly before the world notices loudly. And here's the dangerous part about short-term thinking. It creates emotional exhaustion. People constantly restart, constantly switch goals, constantly chase trends, constantly seek quick validation. But long-term thinkers build momentum instead of constantly rebuilding motivation. That's why they eventually move further. Not because they're always smarter, but because they stay in the game long enough for time to reward them. Time never stops shaping your life. At the end of your life, you probably won't remember most of the things that distracted you today. You won't remember most notifications, most trends, most arguments online, most random entertainment, but you will feel the consequences of how you used your time. That's the part many people realize too late. Time is never neutral. It is always building something, either discipline or regret, either focus or distraction, either freedom or dependence. And the truth is, becoming wealthy is often less about dramatic moments and more about invisible habits repeated when nobody is watching. The person who protects their mornings, the person who keeps learning, the person who delays unnecessary pleasure, the person who uses small hours wisely, the person who thinks long-term. Those people slowly separate themselves from the crowd without even realizing it. Because while others spend years reacting emotionally to life, they spend years intentionally building a future. And one day, the difference becomes impossible to ignore. Not overnight, but permanently. So if your life feels stuck right now, don't just ask yourself how to make more money. Ask yourself a deeper question. What has my time been building? Because your future is hiding inside your daily habits. And the powerful thing is this: you do not need a completely different life to begin changing your future. You may only need a different relationship with time. Time is the only currency every human being receives equally at the beginning. But over the years, the way you use it quietly determines whether you build freedom or spend your life chasing it. And once you truly understand that, you stop treating time casually. You start treating it like wealth, because it already is. If this changed the way you think about money, discipline, and your future, subscribe for more videos like this.